Let us deal with the real issues.
Call Sue Mulroney.
Well, we were once a proud nation, weren't we? Once a proud nation, where on the international stage people admired New Zealand because we took an independent stance. When the Americans said that they wanted nuclear ships to come into this country, did we acquiesce to the Americans then? No, we took an independent stance. And Mr Chair, the date of the commencement in this clause, in this piece of legislation, is the date of a day of shame for this country, because it is the day that our independence as a once proud nation actually finishes. It's the day that, oh look, and David Bennett doesn't care. David Bennett doesn't care that New Zealand on the world stage has been seen to acquiesce to an American corporation to change our domestic law without any New Zealanders being able to actually come and make a submission to say what New Zealanders think about this law change. What do New Zealanders think about this law change? That government will never know. That government will never know, and it doesn't care. It doesn't want to find out because it's rushing this legislation through, and legislation in the day of commencement in this clause is a day of shame for this country, brought about by John Key. Brought about by John Key, because he, in one foul swoop, is ruining the reputation of this country as being independent, having an independent voice, and on the international stage actually being proud and saying, no, New Zealand does have its own view. New Zealand does not buckle to international pressure, except for now. Now it's clear to the world that, in fact, New Zealand does. And this is an issue of our sovereignty. Mr Chair, I'm a Matamata girl. I'm a Matamata girl. In fact, actually, to be fair, I'm a Walton girl. So, you know, what's 10 kilometres between friends? But there is no one in this House that was more determined to see the Hobbit shot in the locality where I was brought up. No one who is more proud of my town's involvement in that film. But Mr Chair, in that same location in Matamata, there's another industry who would quite like $33 million at the drop of a hat. There's the racing industry, and they're going to come knocking. They're going to come knocking on John Key's door to say, thank you, Mr Key, where's our $33 million? Because that's another industry that's of incredible importance to Matamata and the Waikato and that surrounding area. And those members opposite, they know that they're going to have the tourism industry lining up next, they're going to have the racing industry lining up next, and why shouldn't they? Because there are easily as many jobs at risk with the racing industry, which is going down the tubes as we speak because of that government's approach to not actually having economic development. So, Mr Speaker, Mr Chair, I want to speak kind of in support of the amendment put forward by Trevor Mallard, because he's actually proposed that that this legislation expires on the 8th of November. Well, look, there's another date that I'd like to propose, and that's, I think the first Tuesday in November would be a very fine day. You know, Melbourne Cup Day. Why not have this expire on Melbourne Cup Day so then the racing industry could have their turn? They could come immediately in, knocking on the door to say, well, Mr Key, where's our $33 million? Because we've got lots of jobs, we've got an industry that's of vital importance to New Zealand, and why don't we get the same treatment that has just been handed out on a plate to an American corporation? Because, Mr Chair, I want to know, is that $33 million going to stay in New Zealand? Is that going to be in New Zealanders' pockets? Because we know it's coming out of New Zealanders' pockets. We know it's coming out of the taxpayer pocket. But where will that $33 million go? Into the bottom line of Warner Brothers, into this bottom line here. And where are their shareholders? Are there shareholders in New Zealand? Are there any New Zealanders who are actually going to make any money out of that $33 million that was given away to the Warner Brothers? Well, David Bennett says no. He says no, there's no New Zealanders. There's no New Zealanders that are going to make any money out of that. Well, maybe if that money went into the racing industry instead, then we could actually see that there would be New Zealanders that benefit. You know, local jobs, not just for 2 films, but going on and on and on, and sustainable employment into the future. So, Mr Chair, I think the commencement date's pretty interesting here, because it will be a day of shame for New Zealand.
I call Matia